Hello, welcome to my dungeon. My name is Barby, if you didn't already know that, which you probably do at this point, and I have to find a better intro because that's starting to annoy even myself. Anyways, so today I'm going to be talking about creepypastas. For those of you who are unfamiliar with what a creepypasta is, it's basically like an internet urban legend, a little short story that's meant to really scare you. And the funny thing about me is that I consume so much horror literature, it's not even funny. At my peak, I do about a book and a half a day. I like to read as much as I possibly can. I always feel like I'm wasting some form of time when I'm not reading. But horror novels have never managed to scare me as much as these little creepypastas written by people on the internet have. When I was younger, one of my favorite things to do was to just load up on creepypasta story times and eat half my body weight in snacks with my cousin Brianna, who doesn't live near me, but at the time she was visiting, and a couple of my best friends. It was always my favorite pastime because I remember thinking, wow, I'm so desensitized. I had a family that, well, a mom more so, that pretty much raised me on horror. So I was like, kinda craving something that would actually make me afraid to go to sleep at night. And these were always the way to do it. And I hate to say it, but even to this day, you cannot usually get me with a horror novel. I'll enjoy it, and I will eat it up, and I will love every second of it. But it does not scare me. It does not make me not want to go to sleep at night. Creepypastas always do. So I'm going to be telling you guys about some of my favorite creepypastas. Now, you might just think to yourself, oh, this is like a kid thing. This is like a little internet slice of life type deal. Like, this is not something that's actually going to affect me, but you could not be more wrong. You got to give this stuff a chance. There's a lot of really, really good stories circulating out there. I write some myself, and I'm not going to be talking about mine today, but there are a couple of stories that have stayed with me through the years and have actually made me question my sanity from time to time. Well, a lot of things do that, but so if you're looking to get really spooked, this is something that you could probably invest in. I want to start off by saying that I do have a couple of honorable mentions to this story, and one of those is Squidward, which is really popular. If you don't know, Squidward Suicide is pretty much about an episode of SpongeBob that was considered an alleged lost episode, and in it, Squidward, does the do and unalives himself. So it's not nearly as creepy as a lot of people say it is. You might have heard the phrase, the red mist is coming. That does come from Squidward. You can find a video of it on YouTube of the supposed lost episode. But you know what? Squidward never really did anything other than interest me. I wasn't afraid of it. It wasn't really terrifying, but it is a pretty interesting concept. So I did want to list it here as something to maybe check out. And the second honorable mention I have is the Russian sleep experiment. I did not like this creepypasta. I thought it was way overhyped, but it did inspire a lot of further stories and a lot of really scary imagery, and it stayed with a lot of people, so I think it does deserve a spotlight. This was pretty much one of the first creepypastas, and it is very well written. It just wasn't for me, but I do want to recommend it to those who are looking to get into creepypasta, as I think it might be a pretty good place for you to start. So, that aside, here are some of my favorite creepypastas and the reason why. So the first one is Laughing Jack, and this is by Snuff Bomb. Snuff Bomb is Snuff Bomb is the person that Snuff Bomb is the person that wrote Laughing Jack. I apologize. Snuff Bomb is the person that wrote Laughing Jack, and this was one of the ones I heard when I was like 15 years old. Now, although I do like to read my novels, sometimes I like to listen to a creepypasta. There's something very campfire tale about it, and there's a lot of really great narrations all over YouTube. So this is one of the only ones in which I do remember the writer at the top of my head. I apologize. But if you did write any of these, feel free to comment and link all your stuff. I would love that. So yeah, Snuff Bomb wrote Laughing Jack, and although the second installment of Laughing Jack, which is called The Origin of Laughing Jack, I did not enjoy, the first one without the prequel is pretty fucking terrifying. And I don't want to spoil what happens, but I do want to say that Laughing Jack is this clown dressed in an Apache costume. He's entirely black and white, and he kind of functions like your typical imaginary friend clown who isn't really imaginary, but the things that he does to this kid, The things that Laughing Jack does to this little kid are things that I don't think I will ever be able to get out of my head. The end of the story is not something I will ever be able to forget. It's both sad and absolutely horrific and gut-wrenching, and if you have children, I 100% recommend proceeding with caution when it comes to this one, because it really takes all your worst fears as a parent about being inadequate or about not being able to keep your kids safe and combines them into the worst possible outcome. Laughing Jack is really a force to be reckoned with, a force to be destroyed. You really just have to experience it to know what I'm saying, but yeah, that one stayed with me, specifically because of the events of the ending. And just the design of Laughing Jack, it's pretty well known now, but it's rather horrific, it's rather original. So yeah, props to Snuff Bomb. This was a great character. And no matter how many younger fans Laughing Jack has, it will always hold a special place in my heart because I remember it as being one of the first things that actually really attracted me to Creepypasta. I will never hear Pop Goes the Weasel and not think of this story. So, yeah, like I said, proceed with caution, but this is one that you might want to check out if you're looking to be really disturbed and really sad, actually. Really upset. So, yeah, there's that. So, second, Channel Infinity. Channel Infinity is a ritual pasta. You'll hear of a lot of ritual pastas as I go on, because I've always found those to be the creepiest. Just the thought that I'm not going to do these things that this unnamed narrator is telling me to do. But if I did, what would happen? If I did follow these instructions, what would happen to me? That's really creepy. That's also my favorite way to write. So, fun fact. Channel Infinity is about reaching this channel. Obviously, it's called Channel Infinity. Yeah, I'm redundant. But it's about reaching it because you can receive a lot of answers to your long-held, deep questions about life by reaching Channel Infinity. So obviously you will need a TV, you'll need a couple other items, and again, I'm teetering a very thin line between explaining the pastas to you and between spoiling them. These are really quick and I want you guys to get a lot out of them, so I don't want to spoil the pastas, but I will say this. Channel Infinity is very bizarre. There's a scene that involves the moon, which is just so gut-wrenching, and there's a lot of instructions that relate to Channel Infinity that might not really make sense. This pasta is multi-dimensional, and I really like that. I really like the weird stuff where, you're not quite in your world, but you're not quite in a different world either. And that's where Channel Infinity takes you. It'll take you to this weird parody of your hometown that, if all goes well, you'll make it back from. But if you look at that moon and it doesn't look the way it should, good luck. So, really, the horror in Channel Infinity is not behind the monsters or the entities, or it's just the impending doom and being stuck in a place so unfamiliar. So how far would you really go to know the answers you've been dying to know? Would you go as far as to take a trip to Channel Infinity? It raises a pretty good question, and it is completely original. It is not like anything else I've ever read, so I always recommend this one. It's pretty quick too. It takes about 10 minutes to get through a narration, so if you're looking to be kind of weirded out, I would highly recommend Channel Infinity. Alright, so furthermore, the last two I have three. So that was a lie. I have three more pastas. The next two are going to be a ritual, and then I will end strong with one of the ones that is not that, but really had an effect on me. So, next is The Devil Game. You might be aware of The Devil Game. The Devil Game is a pretty controversial creepypasta. It was hailed as being the inspiration for a pretty violent crime. I don't know much as far as that goes, but I do know that the writer, it was never his intention to get people to go out there and break into churches. So look, it's a story. Why would you want to play this game anyway? If you listen to it, you'll know what I mean. This is not a game you should want to indulge yourself in anyway, but essentially this game takes place in a church. You have to go into the church, you have to set up a mirror, you have to set up a couple of other things, and this allows you to have a conversation with the devil himself. When it's said that when the devil appears, he does not appear as some horned, guy with some fork or anything like that. He appears just like a normal man, and the only way you'll know any different is through his eyes. Now, this pretty much puts you in a position where you are allowed to challenge the devil in a game of question and response. He can tell you the truth, but he can also lie to you. If you flub up any of his questions, it gives him an opportunity to lie. But at a certain point, he'll have so many passes that you can't even tell whether he's lying or telling the truth. So why speak to the devil? A lot of people have like a whole occult fascination with it. They just want to know. That's the whole point of the appeal behind the supposed game. So the consequences related to flubbing up any part of this game are really, really substantial and truly unforgettable, truly difficult to dismiss from your mind. This is what I can't talk much about without full-on spoiling it, but just know that it's a pretty straightforward pasta about a set of instructions that will allow you to come face to face with the devil and ask him whatever you wish. Now, for a lot of people, that might be really tempting. I think that the writer knew this, writing the story. All I'm going to say is that, much like Laughing Jack, the end is where he really slaps you with all the good horror stuff that you're looking for. This one is a little bit longer than the other ones I've talked about so far, but it's totally worth it. And honestly, I've listened to it multiple times and I still get scared every time I listen to it, just of the possibility of the whole remoteness of you being alone in a dark church with no one to help you, coming face to face with the devil by no choice other than your own. And the sick part about it is, I know to a lot of people it might sound pretty tempting. It might sound really tempting to think, oh, well, it's probably not real. What if I just did it? That's why it's so effective. It's really nice work, and the tone of the story makes you feel comfortable, yet completely unnerved at the same time. It takes real talent to do that. So honestly, props to the writer. So the next one I want to talk about is the Three Kings ritual. This inspired an entire subreddit called Three Kings, where people post recipes, or rather instructions, like I've been saying, to follow if you want outcome A or outcome B to happen, or if you want to summon this dark entity. Now, the Three Kings ritual leaves a lot of things out, and that's what I really like about it. It doesn't exactly go into detail about who these entities visiting your home are, just that you have a king, a fool, and a queen, and from where they're sitting, you're either their king, their fool, or their queen. So it kind of has a whole depersonalization element to it. This game's consequences are not as severe as a lot of the ones that I just listed. They're kind of a little bit more subtle and a little bit more up to interpretation. The real strength in the Three Kings is the mystery behind what these entities are, what they want, why you are doing something like this, and what will happen to you if your backups don't work. So you have to approach this with an air of mystery, but if you're someone that really likes that mystery, that really likes being left wanting more and just being able to come up with your own conclusions, I would highly recommend this one. It's really popular, it's really well heard of, and it delivers quite well. So Three Kings, you'll definitely find a lot on it if you look it up. This was, I think, originally posted to Reddit No Sleep, which is a really, really great community and one that I love to read stories on myself. So yeah, you never know how far you'll get. Maybe you guys should try something like that one day too. And lastly, I saved the most emotionally impactful for last, is the story of Ezekiel. Ezekiel is a guardian angel to a young boy, but he's not like other guardian angels. Ezekiel wants to eliminate anything and everything that's causing this young boy pain, and he can only inform him of that through a series of random phone calls. His voice is described as being very soft and very, like, gentle. Like, oh, I'm sorry. Things like that. Which, you know, you would normally associate with, okay, there's a sense of calm here, I have to go with it. But no, Ezekiel is balls out terrifying. And you find out why later. The thing is that Ezekiel probably doesn't realize he's doing harm. He thinks he's just helping this little kid that he's trying to lift up. He's trying to uprise him. But as this kid grows up, Ezekiel stays the same. And Ezekiel keeps calling. Even when he thinks he hasn't heard from Ezekiel, Ezekiel will call again. And, you know, in his haste and his anger, this kid keeps admitting stuff to Ezekiel that maybe he shouldn't. Like, for instance, so-and-so is really irritating me. Or, I can't get my dog to listen. You see where I'm going with this? Right. Again, the real horror here is more so in the fact that I believe Ezekiel as an entity did not realize he was doing anything wrong. He probably just thought he was there to serve a purpose. But again, this is one you really got to experience. I cannot even explain to you how much I wanted to like this character, but how unnerving it was that he only knew how to do bad things and thought that they were for the greater good. It really takes the whole concept of a guardian angel and completely warps it. So yeah, 10 points for originality, and even more for like still pulling my heartstrings to this very day. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope that I've inspired you to give creepypastas a chance, because a lot of the time they're dismissed as like, you know, childish or stuff of urban myths that we outgrew, but really we never outgrow that sense of fear. We just tell ourselves that we have, and it can be a lot of fun to ride that roller coaster. So I hope you guys will check out some of these, and if you ever want to, you can check out my stories, which I all have underneath my Reddit, which I will post the link to in the description. Alright, I hope you guys take care of yourselves, like, subscribe, you know, the whole bada bing, and that's all.